Hi, this is Frazer Hines, and this is the Sirens of Audio.
Dwayne Voss, the Sirens of Audio podcast is not to be trifled with.
I think I am quite capable of handling the technology.
I sincerely doubt that.
Does it worry you, Dwayne, that with it I will transform my own YouTube channel into a source of unimaginable power? And with that power at my disposal, my channel shall sweep away yours along with its impotent quorum of interviews. My podcast shall become Lord of Fandom. We shall become all
Powerful, crush the lesser creatives, conquer the socials, unimaginable power, unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
Do not anger me, Dwayne. I can destroy you and this miserable, insignificant intro sketch.
Oh, wonderful. What power, what brilliance. You can wipe out the odd podcast feed, enslave the occasional audience, but it still won't detract from the basic fundamental truth of your own impotence.
Careful, Dad.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. G'day audiophiles, this is the Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who and other cult TV in the audio medium. My name's Dwayne.
And my name is Philip. G'day, Dwayne. G'day, Audiophiles.
Philip, good to see you again. How have you been?
I've been great, thank you. And how have you been, Dwayne?
Yeah, very good. I was very entertained a week or two back. I noticed that the first episode of our new podcast, Blake 7, The Way Back, has dropped. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, good. It's actually the misnamed episode 0. Because the first episode
Oh, that's right.
next week. Well, I don't know when this is coming out. It's episode 0 because it's just the introduction to what's going to go on. But episode 1 will be the first episode of Blake 7. So I called it episode 0 just to confuse people.
And I have had a few people reach out saying, is there a podcast feed, an audio-only feed? How are we going with that? Is that coming?
Yes, I do. It is coming, and hopefully by the time this comes out, it will have happened, because I will have remembered to do it by then.
Yeah, so at the moment, it's only been available on YouTube. But yes, we do have an RSS feed coming, so never fear with that. It is on the way, and lots of exciting things happening lots of exciting things to talk about in Blake 7. It's very good to be able to talk with the other boys too. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Second Doctor. In particular, I know he's a favourite of yours, Philip, and we're going to be talking about the very first 4 Companion Chronicles featuring the Second Doctor and the companions that were with him on those particular stories as well. So that will be interesting. Going back, the Companion Chronicles are almost 20 years old now. So, boy, time has flown. But before we do that, we just want to talk about our live event coming up, particularly in October, Philip.
Yes, so Carole and Ford, I can't believe how close it's come. Like, had a bit of a panic in the last week or so, because I've been very laid back because it was always so far away. And I suddenly realised, oh no, there's a combination. I've got to book a combination of Hong Kong and Singapore, because she's having stopovers both ways, coming out, going in, and book all the Melbourne accommodation. And suddenly I realised that all the big stuff had been organised, the big plane tickets, and the locations had all been booked. But I suddenly realised there's all this other stuff that I haven't done yet. So on top of all that, Chris is helping out a bit too. But it's going to be an amazing event. The VIPs, actually we've extended the Victorian VIP because it blew out the 20. And so we've rearranged what we usually do for the VIP in Melbourne. So we're actually going to have a banquet at the centre where we have the event. So they're going to cater for us there to allow for more people. And I'm trying to organise different space in Sydney because once again that's blowing out. So tickets are selling fast, and at some stage we may actually have to close down because part of these events is about it being intimate and close. And I don't want it to be too big. So if you haven't got your tickets, think about getting them soon. because I may have to make a call at some point of actually shutting down the tickets, because it's becoming very popular, which is I'm not surprised. I mean, the first companion of Doctor Who ever, who was supposed to be in the last episode of season 2 and all of season 3, which hopefully you'll get to hear about at the event.
And the character that the first episode was based on, and the first sort of regular character that we saw. So, well, no, it wasn't. It was Ian and Barbara, but you know what I'm saying. It was all goes way back. So, very important part of Doctor Who history.
Yeah, first episode's named after her. She did the first leaving, and it still brings a tear to my eye when she goes. So yeah, it's she was the model of all companions.
Yeah, and we're so privileged to be able to have her in this part of the world. You may not have booked accommodation in Melbourne yet, but I have. I've booked mine, so I will be there. I'll give a shout out to anyone who doesn't want to see my ugly face, because unfortunately I can't make it to Sydney this time. So anyone who doesn't want to see me, go to Sydney. Otherwise you'll have to put up with me in Melbourne. Sorry, sorry about that.
I'm not sure we've announced that Katie Manning will be coming to Sydney to interview. So Sydney, you're doubly blessed, because Katie Manning is actually in town, and her and Carole are good friends, naturally enough. And Katie's going to actually come and do one of the interviews of Carole and in Sydney. So only Sydney. So and I'm trying to twist her arm into doing autograph, because Katie wants it all to be about Carole Ann. She doesn't want to be about her. And I'm saying, no, there's lots of people there who are going to want to have a photo with you and do autographs with you. But at the moment, she's saying, no, it's all about Carole Ann. I don't want to get in the way. See, it's not going to be a problem. But anyhow, I'm still having some more arm twisting to do there. But regardless, Katie and Carole on the stage is going to be a moment in time. And I'm sorry you won't be there, Dwayne. Sorry.
I'm very sorry about that too, but these things happen. Hopefully someone will record that for me, because I would love to see that. So, with that in mind, we've got one thing to do before we talk about our stories. We'll be very brief, Philip, don't you worry, because I know you've got pressing matters at hand. But we have to do one thing, and you know what that is?
No, what's that, Dwayne?
Oh, come with me. We're going to jump down the rabbit hole. Let's go. Right, Philip, you alluded to it when you were talking about Carole Ann a minute ago, that she was supposed to be in Series 3, supposed to be at the end of Series 2 of Doctor Who. It's looking more and more like Doctor Who will be off our screens for some time, at least in its official form, the way it used to be. How are you feeling about that? And what do you think is going to happen? Is this the new Wilderness Years? Do you think it will look similar? I've got my own views about what I think is going to happen. But what are your views on what might happen from here going forward?
Well, I don't know. I haven't got any recent word. I mean, I know a lot of what transpired leading up to these events and things. I guess the BBC are trying to say, no, it's not the Wilderness Years. I think they made a very deliberate choice to stick Billie Piper in at the end. If Billie Piper's the Doctor, who is she? We don't know. But that was a deliberate choice. My understanding is originally it was filmed just to be a regeneration to nobody. And it was actually the BBC who stepped in a couple of weeks before the episode aired and went, no, we want someone. And therefore they had major discussions about, well, what do we do? We haven't got time to cast a Doctor. We don't know we want to cast a Doctor. And there was all sorts of issues to think about previous Doctors and whether, just they've got to now think about all sorts of things. And they decided, all the fans love Billie Piper. Let's just finish with Billie Piper. And she was agreeing to that. I don't know what she's signed. But the very fact they've made it her means I think we will see it back sooner rather than later. I'm pretty confident that next year the only Doctor Who we'll get will be the spin-off, the war between the land and the sea, which was supposed to be showing now. We should actually be seeing that at the moment. And there should have been a Christmas episode filmed and season...
You don't think that'll be released before the end of the year?
No, it won't, no. They're holding that back to next year. So that next year we'll have some Doctor Who. So it will have 5... It would have been announced by now, but from what the word I've heard on the street is that that's being held back till next year, because there'll be 5 episodes then next year, and that will be the Doctor Who, and that gives the BBC a bit more time, and hopefully the year after that might be when they bring Doctor Who back. So my assumption at the moment is that it will probably start filming the middle of next year for the following year's season. So there'll be some Doctor Who. I mean, worst case scenario is I suspect they may wait another whole year, just put a Christmas episode in 2 years' time, and then start the following season. So I think we're going to have a year when next year will be no real Doctor Who, which is or spin-off. I think it will be back the following year in some form, even if it's just a special or two with Billy Piper.
Okay.
What are you expecting, Ray? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'd stopped watching the last season. I wasn't really happy with where Doctor Who had gone, but I'm always interested in all the gossip and what potentially could happen in the future. Of course I am. I'm a Doctor Who fan, but I just wasn't happy with where it was going. My personal preference would be that Doctor Who is off the air for a while, for a good while, to have a rest. I think it was really tired, particularly in the perception of the general public, and I think that's when it was at its peak, was when the general public was engaged in the show too. Whether that can be tapped into again, I don't know. I think if there were high-level negotiations about who to put in, and everyone suddenly decided the genius idea of putting Billy Piper in there, that's obvious to me that the BBC doesn't know what they're doing in any way, shape or form with Doctor Who. No one does in that level. So it has got me thinking about what's going to happen. Is it going to be a Wilderness Years 2? And I don't think it will be. The world is a completely different place now. Back then we only had the classic series, and there weren't, when it was finished, I mean, you couldn't get access to most of the classic series, I would venture to say. It was still being released on VHS. So that was happening all through the 90s, and I think it was still being released even in the early 2000s on VHS. As the DVD range was starting, the VHSs were still coming out. So that was a 10-year period of stuff like that. It was appearing on UK Gold and other various UK TV here in Australia. Doctor Who was airing constantly. So, and there were lots of extended media. So the novels started happening, which were exciting for me at first. I didn't quite get into them the way I hoped I would, but it certainly spawned a lot of fan involvement in creating new Doctor Who in different directions. And I think, as far as today goes, I think now would be the time for Doctor Who fans to perhaps go back and explore some of those, particularly new Doctor Who fans who haven't dipped into any of it. If they're here watching us now talk, Philip, or listening to us, it's the opportunity to go back and listen to some of the extended media like audio drama, or they can go back into the books, or they can find comics or things like that, or BBC audios that have been released over the years. It's a good opportunity to go back into that. But like anything to do with media, humans seem to like stuff that's brand new. So whether that works for everybody or not, I don't know. But I think if it's off the air for a while, it's a great time for nostalgia and to go back and dip into some of these things that have been yet to be explored. There's even stuff that I haven't explored from the past that I would like to dip into. So the opportunity's there, I think, for everyone to do that.
Yep. I mean, I would give up a year of Doctor Who for every lost episode they could find. So, find 15 lost episodes.
I'd give up 10 years.
No. 15 years of episodes for 15 episodes, quite happily. I think if we could get the lost episodes back, they to me would be far more valuable than a new season. I mean, that being said, they might find the right showrunner who actually knows how to reach the current audience. I think Russell, he just went too niche, and he knew how to do it the first time to get the masses in, but for some reason he was just working to a very narrow crowd of people, and he just missed the mark, which is just tragic. Because I guess I was so upset because I was expecting so much and hoping for so much. It broke my heart. It did.
Yeah. All right. On that note, let's see if we can mend your broken heart with talking about some Second Doctor extended media today, and we're going to be talking about, as I said, Second Doctor Companion Chronicles, the first 4 that were released in the range. There was only 4 of them in the first first 3 seasons of Companion Chronicles. So we're going to deal with all of them right now. And to start off with, Fear of the Daleks is the first one, a Companion Chronicle featuring the season 6 team of Jamie and Zoe. And I will read a blurb. Why has Zoe Herriot been having nightmares about the Daleks? Who is the Doctor? A mysterious man from her past? When an evil scientist hijacks her mind to control a galaxy-conquering weapon, Zoe must stop him. First, she and the Doctor will face an enemy they thought they had destroyed forever.
Who are you? Answer!
There have always been the dreams. Always the dreams. I don't remember how long I've been having them. Years, it seems. Decades, perhaps. They start with the same voices. Chilling, inhuman, almost pure evil.
Exterminate!
Those voices end in the same heart-rending sound of destruction, as though the universe is tearing itself apart. Then I see a fragment of something elusive, an action, a face, and I wake up with a cry. The dreams have been getting more lucid recently. I've been seeing more of the faces, the actions, and I think I finally have something coherent, which is why I've come to you, Counsellor. I have an eidetic memory, clarity, precision, almost reality. Imagine dreaming of monsters when you have a gift such as mine.
Fear of the Daleks by Patrick Chapman. The facts and the trivia. This is number 1.2 in the Companion Chronicles range, only the second one to be released, starring Wendy Padbury as Zoe Herriot and Nicholas Briggs as the Daleks. It was recorded in December 2006 and released in January 2007. The director was Mark J. Thompson, sound design and music by Lawrence Oakley, script editor was Alan Barnes, the producer was Sharon Gosling, executive producers Jason Haig Ellery and Nicholas Briggs, and the cover art by Simon Hulub. If I pronounce that properly, Simon, because I love your work. The story takes place both after the Wheel in Space and after the War Games. It's sort of got 2 stories running in different 2 time zones. This is the second time Wendy Padbury has worked for Big Finish. The first time was 4 years earlier, playing a different character in the show Davros. Except for a brief cameo in The 5 Doctors, this is Wendy playing Zoe for the first time in 24 years. Continuity with the Big Finish story of the Apocalypse element was maintained with the use of crystals for communication by the Daleks. This is writer Patrick Chapman's only Doctor Who story. For Big Finish, he also wrote Dan Dare. Series 1 of the Companion Chronicles was only 4 stories long, so this is 1 out of 4 stories for Season 1. And that's the facts and the trivia.
Thank you, Philip. So you mentioned Wendy Padbury's first appearance there in the 6th Doctor story Davros. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And she was against another Second Doctor actor in Bernard Horsfall, 2nd Doctor and 4th Doctor actor. And having heard some of your best picks from the Companion Chronicles, because it went for quite a few years after the first 2 seasons, which only had 4 episodes in each. And then from Series 3 onwards, they were monthly. For the next 6 years afterwards, I think. So, having heard some of your best picks, going back to this, you could certainly see that this was the start of the range. It was very different to what I was used to from other Companion Chronicles. I did listen to this when it first came out. I've got the CD, so I've got the actual physical copy from back then, and I did listen to it at the time. And yeah, it's kind of still forming, I felt. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's much more a narrated story than it is what the Companion Chronicles will become. It's a brand new range. They haven't yet worked out what the range can do. And so they start to explore the idea of, her memory coming back and that sort of thing. But it's going to be a trilogy come soon. the Zoe trilogy, where it's all about memory and getting her memory back, and John Dorney writes two of them. It's just beautifully written. This is a kicking off start. Just to remind people that may or may not be aware that when Gary Russell was running the range, his view was not to bring back any companions if the Doctors weren't alive. So he would only match companions up with Doctors who were alive, which meant or who they could get. So at that stage, it was just the 5th, 6th, and 7th Doctor. Though by this stage, Paul McGann was also recording. Tom Baker hadn't started yet. But if you were a companion of the 1st or 2nd Doctor or 3rd Doctor, then they might find you arranged in something else. As we mentioned, Wendy Padbury came back 4 years earlier to do a stunning story. If you haven't listened to our review of Davros, go back and listen to it. But also listen to the story, because she plays a villain who is just wonderful. And you don't like her at all. She's really rotten. And so Gary Russell would bring back companions to play other roles, but they weren't allowed to play themselves. By this stage, though, I'm pretty sure by now Nicholas Briggs has taken over the reins at Big Finish. Gary's moved down to Wales to work with Doctor Who, the live TV show. And so the whole idea started to change. And so part of that was, we want to use these companions. We've got all these actors who, in particular, Nick was very fond of. He's interviewed them all, and he's had a relationship with lots of them, and he wanted to start bringing them in. And that's why this range was created, to allow that to come back. So yeah, it's so exciting to me to have these voices back with us. And and with that being said, Wendy's voice hasn't aged at all. Those who saw her last year at one of our events, and in fact, I'm having lunch with her in a couple of months' time in December. So I'm going to have lunch with Charlie and go to her house. That's all teed up. She hasn't aged. Her voice hasn't aged at all. And in this, she's just still... Well, she's able to play her age, but also the young, bubbly Zoe as well. So it's running two storylines. You've got the older one narrating a younger story. I think only having the Daleks as the other voices is a bit limiting. So it's good to have a second voice there. It's good to have the Daleks there. Nicholas Briggs always does the Daleks well. But the range hasn't quite got as adventurous as it's going to get. And in fact, we're going to hear some stories a bit later on, coming up, where you can actually see that they're starting to push the boundaries more. They're pushing what they can do. It wasn't a particularly typical Doctor Who story. I love the name, by the way, Fear of the Daleks, because it works two ways. For those of you who haven't listened to it, it's both Fear of the Daleks because we fear them, but it's actually also Fear of the Daleks, which is the fear that the Daleks have. What do the Daleks fear? So it's the fear of the Daleks. So I love the title. It's a bit of a wasted title, to be honest. It's such a good title. I think it could be used better than that. Patrick Chapman, as I said, I don't listen to Dan Dare. Have you heard any of the Dan Dare stories?
No, I haven't.
So my confession, sorry, Big Finish, not listened to any Dan Dare. He's written quite a few of those, which I haven't heard. This is his one Doctor Who story. Didn't come back to do any more. That might say something about it, but it's entertaining. It's easy to listen to, but it's not as good as it will get.
Yes, no, it was very enjoyable, but I did find that it was more like a short trip than what the Companion Chronicles would become. So it was just more like an audio book. There was not so much focus on getting the voices. That would come later on. All the actors would be much more heavily invested in doing the different voices of all the different characters that they were doing, particularly their doctors, which Wendy wasn't doing here, but she does do later on. And
it was very much a narration of a story, of a book.
Yeah, I love the way it takes on. It sort of goes on directly from The Wheel in Space. In some parts where she remembers, because we've got to remember Zoe hasn't got a memory, so she's getting these snippets of memory from her time on the Wheel in Space, which is interesting as well. And yeah, it's good that it was sort of written into the apocalypse element as well, because the Dalek, what was it called? Dalek Empire and all those 4 stories that were originally supposed to be part of Dalek Empire, or they kind of were all incorporated too. It was a great period in Big Finish history, I tell you. It's an amazing time to go back to. That is for sure.
you can see they were trying to be creative in terms of when the story she's telling ends, the Doctor Who theme starts. And it sort of feels like, oh, that's the end. And then it just stops after about 4 or 5 bars. And you go back to the modern Zoe who's telling the story. And you finish off her story. So there's a little trick ending. So you can see they're starting to experiment. They just haven't quite got there yet. But they're starting to play around with the form, what they can do. It's a good start, but it's not quite there yet. But that little snippet of the Doctor Who theme thought, oh, it's over. And then it wasn't. So I thought, oh, I'm glad I didn't just stop the CD player, because otherwise I would have missed out.
Yep. And you are getting that sort of feel of the Second Doctor era, which is something that's pretty quintessential. Well, it's very unique to the Second Doctor, with the mad scientists, the Cybermen, the Daleks, and not so much Base Under Siege, but because that comes in a later story, but you do get a feel of that season 6 vibe. So I certainly felt that. So yeah, enjoyable to listen to that again. Enjoyed it very much, Philip.
Me too.
Now, the companions that we're going to talk about today, we've already talked about Zoe. We're going to talk about Polly, played by Anneke, and we're going to talk also about Victoria, played by Deborah Watling. All those actresses had already been in previous Doctor Who monthly ranges as well. In fact, Anneke played Charlie Pollard's mum. But in the next story,
she started off by playing a lizard.
Actor.
The first time she came and played, she was a giant lizard in the Sandman and unrecognisable.
But the next story we're going to talk about is from season 2 of the Companion Chronicles, so the second set of 4. And this is the very first one that features Frazer Hines, who went on to do an amazing job as the Second Doctor. But everything has a first, and this was his first. So I'll read a blurb for Helicon Prime. It's been a long time since Jamie McCrimmon remembered anything about his travels with the Doctor, but his visit to Helicon Prime just won't stay hidden. But why remember their murder investigation now?
I am James Robert McCrimmon. I am the son of a piper. I am a Highlander. I know all of this to be true. I understand all of this. I remember you bandaging my head when they first brought me here. How many days ago was that? I was out in the moors, walking alone on a bright, clear day, and then, all of a sudden, they say I was struck by lightning. I remember none of this. The men who found me say the heather around me was dotted with flame, and I lay with my head burning and smoking, so they thought I was dead. The lightning has cleared my memory. It's helped me to remember something. I want to tell you about the Doctor and about travelling in the TARDIS. I want to tell you about Mindy Voir and about Helicon Prime.
Helicon Prime by Jake Elliott, number 2.2 in the Companion Chronicles range, starring Frazer Hines as Jamie McCrimmon and Suzanne Proctor as Mindy Voir. Released in November 2007, directed by Nigel Fairs. Sound design and music by David Darlington. Script editor Alan Barnes. Producer was Sharon Gosling. Executive producers Jason Haig-Ellery and Nicholas Briggs. And the cover art once again by Simon Hollab. This was Frazer's first appearance as Jamie in 22 years since The Two Doctors. This is Jake Elliott's only Big Finish play. See if it happens again. Nigel Fairs is probably better known for his writing rather than director, but he was the director of all of season 2 of the Companion Chronicles, so the 4 stories in this one, he directed them all. He was also much better known in some ways for all his work on the Tomorrow People. Series 2 of the Companion Chronicles, like the previous one, is only 4 episodes long, and that is the facts and the trivia.
Yeah, so once again produced by Sharon Gosling. And Nigel Fairs was also, as you were saying that, Philip, I remember that Nigel was actually a companion to the Doctor once. Do you remember that? In the audio visuals, he was the Doctor's companion. He was the Nicholas Briggs Doctor companion in the audio visuals. for one of the seasons, I think.
I haven't listened to them in the audiovisuals, so the only time I've gone back is when we've gone back to taste them because they've been remade.
And I think, we've only done one or two of them in the past, so we could have an opportunity one day to go back. It's hard though because there's just so much of everything else.
So much to talk about.
We want to get to too. Yes. So this, as was mentioned, is Frazer Hines' first appearance on a Big Finish audio. And as far as Jake Elliott's story goes, I found it a little bit hard to follow at times, but it was okay. But once again, we had this issue of it being the first time. I am used to the early adventures with Frazer playing the Doctor and Lost Stories with Frazer playing the Doctor, where he'd really turned it up to 11, whereas here he's on about 3. Because I think this was where he says that when he goes to conventions that Helicon Prime is where Nigel Fairs told him how much he sounded like Patrick. So from then on, he's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna push that further. But he doesn't so much in this one.
You go watch our episode where we interview Frazer, and he talks about doing this first Big Finish recording, and Nigel talking him into doing the voice because he hadn't come to prepare the voice at all at that stage. They still really weren't doing the voices, and then Frazer Nigel heard him mucking round, but and it was off mic, just telling some stories, and he was putting on the voice, and Nigel went, "Wow, do that!" And so, and later on, he's the most brilliant Second Doctor, as you say. Yeah, but that's a good way to put it. It's about a level 3 out of a level 10. Yeah, good way to put it.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on the story? Did you find it? It took me. Whenever I'd let my mind wander, I'd miss bits, so I'd have to go back with this one, and I must have been listening to it at the wrong time. But I found the story a little bit difficult to follow.
Yeah, I do think the story is very complex. I do actually think bringing in a really top-notch actress to work against the companion, and when we start putting against really quality acting against the one companion voice, you do get a whole lift to the performances. And I do actually think, I meant to look her up actually, I don't know whether Suzanne Proctor did anything else with Big Finish. I didn't even look up who she was. But she has an amazing voice, and she did a really great job in who she was playing. So I think we're starting to see some really excellent employment. What has she done, Dwayne? Have you got something there or not?
She's done quite a bit. She did Acid Bath Murder and Pulling Faces with the Drama Showcase range. She's been in a Time War, and she's been an Eighth Doctor Time War box, and she's done a couple of Sapphire and Steels as well. So a few things, but not many at all.
And a lot of those things.
I've got to say, when you talk about her acting, I didn't pick the twist at the end, so it must have been good. She wasn't giving anything away in that performance. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do actually. You mentioned the twist, which we won't tell you the actual twist, but it was a nice twist at the end, and the story did have some very clever moments in it. So once again, this is a one-off Doctor Who writer, Jake Elliott. Not sure what else. Yeah, what else has done? What else has really done? In terms of certainly not in Doctor Who. But it was actually the construction of the story was a lot more complicated than Fear the Daleks, which works in some ways, but also had some drawbacks, as Dwayne said, a bit hard to follow. But a lot more interesting characterizations, a lot more twists and turns with the script, and some nice, clever ending stuff. So once again, you can see the progress of second season, but it's still, as I said, it's still only a monthly range. It's really not until next year when it becomes monthly that a lot more writers come in and start doing a lot more clever stuff with the stories. And this is, you can once again, you can see that, you can feel the progress. You can hear the Doctor's voice now being voiced. You can hear little things happening. You can see a lot more Frazer does a lot more characterizations in his reading. Wendy was very much just reading the story like an audiobook. We've now progressed, and a lot of this actually at Nigel. Nigel is an amazing actor. As I said, I just talked about him as a writer. He's actually a really stunning actor too. I should mention that. He's a great actor, and hopefully we might get to see that at some point. But he's directing, and so it's a lot more performance coming out, performance driven. And because Nigel directed all 4 of these, so I think it was a different director for each of the first 4 shows. But it was just Nigel, and that consistency of him doing all four meant he was allowed to prepare a bit differently and get different performances out. So as I said, Big Finish is making these little steps which are really starting to make a change to the quality.
And how were you feeling as a customer at the time, getting some Second Doctor stories, finally, your Doctor?
Yeah, I guess I didn't start getting the range till about halfway through the third season. Maybe not into season 4. So you should know this. I'm very, very slow with starting my ranges with Big Finish. I get quite obsessed with every new range, but I don't. I wait a while before I get it. So your Survivors was season 3 by the time I started. This probably was season 3 or 4. And it was only the fact that, I'm trying to think what it was. I managed to buy a whole heap of the CDs very, very cheap. I think, I'm trying to think who was saying, maybe it was the Doctor Club of Australia. I got a whole heap at one stage. So I got the first 3 seasons as a job lot of CDs. And I was recalling, I was listening to these driving to and from marking when I was teaching. I did basic skills marking, which is just all the state does an exam for years 3, 5, 7, and 9. And I was marking. And so I was driving from school to the marking centre, which was about 45 minutes away. And so I could get one in on the way there and one in on the way back. And so I really became quite obsessed just listening to these in the car, driving to and from marking for about 4 weeks. So I managed to get through the whole season like that. And yeah, so it was just very exciting to just start listening to these and just being overwhelmed. I guess I mean, because there was only one Second Doctor story, and there'd be lots without them, I wasn't particularly picking Second Doctor stories. For me, it was all about the voices. And the joy. I mean, all these people. I've met all these actors. Even Deborah Watling before she passed away. Funny stories I can tell about her. But yeah, just having met these actors, knowing these actors, hearing their voices, it just brings me joy.
Absolutely.
I will say too, the sound design and music really stepped up too. That was the other noticeable thing with this one. The music and sound design was really much, much stronger than in the first story.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next story that we're going to talk about was the second release from Series 3 of the Companion Chronicles. By this stage, they were going to be releasing them 12 a year, so monthly. You could subscribe to them at this stage. And the story is called The Great Space Elevator by one of our favourites, Jonathan Morris. I'll read a blurb. A new adventure with the Second Doctor is told by his companion, Victoria Waterfield. The Great Space Elevator is a marvel of human engineering, a transit tube stretching from the equator up to a space station held in geosynchronous orbit. When the TARDIS lands in Sumatra in the future, the Second Doctor, Jamie and Victoria are captured by guards just as the station loses power. Together with security officer Tara Keeley, the 3 travellers take a one-way trip on the elevator to fix the problem and find themselves confronted by a powerful alien force that threatens to wreak chaos on Earth.
It all seems so long ago, like another life, as though it happened to somebody else. Another girl called Victoria Waterfield. Those adventures didn't happen to another Victoria Waterfield. They happened to me. But it wasn't a story. It was real. It happened, every second of it. They were the most exciting days of my life, the most vivid and the most terrifying. It's a story I could never tell, because this story concerns the future. The story of when the Doctor, Jamie and I visited the Great Space Elevator.
The Great Space Elevator by Jonathan Morris, number 3.2 in the Companion Chronicles range, starring Deborah Watling as Victoria Waterfield and Helen Goldwyn as Tara Keeley. Recorded April 2008 and released August 2008. Directed by Nigel Fares. Script editor Alan Barnes. Sound designer and music by David Darlington. Producer David Richardson. Executive producers Jason Haig-Ellery and Nicholas Briggs. And the cover art by Simon Hollab. This was Deborah Watling's first appearance in 40 years since Fury from the Deep. Helen Goldwyn has been playing Eleanor in The Big Finish Tomorrow People, which had been produced by Nigel Fairs. But by this stage, she was already a very familiar voice in the Doctor Who ranges in Big Finish. Writer Jonathan Morris went for broke in the 5th season Second Doctor story tropes: a base under siege, a foam machine, Victoria screaming, and communicated speeches. Season 3 of the Companion Chronicles is 12 stories and has now become a monthly series due to its success. This is the facts and the trivia.
Thank you, Philip. Now we're starting to get into the swing of the Companion Chronicles and what they're all about, and particularly with Johnny Morris as one of our favourite authors for Big Finish stories. This was great. I really enjoyed this one. The setting was fantastic. Sound design was just up another notch.
Yep.
I listened to it without looking at the cast, so I thought, I know that voice from somewhere. And yes, of course, it's Helen Goldwyn. She's always good value too. And I'm thinking, yes, with Nigel involved. Did you say Nigel? Yeah, Nigel did this one again. So, there's that close association there as well. Though she was doing heaps of Doctor Who as well. She was doing lots of monster voices and things like that.
All the monster voices. She was everything. Yeah.
Yeah. She's done heaps for big. Like, she's probably one of the most roles in probably guest artist Big Finish history. This kind of slots right into season 5. So, of course it has to with Victoria, doesn't it? So, base under siege. I didn't quite understand what the Great Space Elevator was doing, but it looked great, sounded great, and it made for a good story, a good way to get trapped in space by landing on Earth. That was kind of different for a change. Did you understand what the Great Space Elevator was doing? Doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. To be perfectly honest, I was a bit concerned before listening to this story because my memories, I couldn't remember it. And Deborah Watling, as much as she's a lovely person and totally bonkers, can I say, like totally bonkers, but she's lovely, she really isn't a good actress. And every time I go back and watch her in Doctor Who, she's just not good. And even when we found the new episodes, I was thinking if we had a complete story of her, and you know what, she's still not good. And I hate to say that, but she just isn't very good. And so I was a bit concerned about that. I was also concerned about the Great Space Elevator. And in my head, it was just... the writer, that was before I realised it was Jonathan Morris, I had looked it up. I thought the writer just come up with a concept and then made up a story around it. But actually, it is a lot more than that. I do think in part he did come up with this amazing visual of, I want an elevator that goes from Earth all the way to space. But there is a lot more. When I actually listened to the story, it was actually a lot cleverer than that. It is actually Jonathan Morris, and so he does actually take a concept. He has put in, as I said, every possible Second Doctor trope, which is just brilliant.
I love the foam, actually. That made me laugh.
The foam machine just cracked me up. And as I said, Deborah Watling actually does a really good job in telling the story. And so I actually felt a bit embarrassed because she was so much better than I remember her ever being. And she actually did voices really quite well. I could actually hear the Second Doctor in her performance. And although she's not doing it anywhere near what Frazer will end up doing, which is just a perfect interpretation of him, I could actually hear the Second Doctor and the lines and just the way she was timing it and phrasing it. Because there's a scene about with the communicator, which is hello, it's the Doctor here. He does the same lines as he does in the Five Doctors. This is the Doctor here. Who's the oh, hello, Doctor. It's the Doctor here. And she actually did the same exact rhythm as the Five Doctors. So I'm not sure whether Nigel Fairs played at the scene and said imitate it, or she just knew Patrick's cadence. But she managed to get his cadence all the time. And so the rhythm, because Patrick sort of skips along with how he does his lines, and he has a particular way of speaking, which she obviously knew him and loved him and got that cadence happening. So that it was really quite reflective of the Second Doctor. But yeah, I think once again, Helen Goldwyn is just a gem and just an amazing actress and just played the role she played so well and so convincingly and played off Deborah, and Deborah acted well off her. Jonathan just explains things so beautifully. Talking about, I think he spins something on a chain. I forget what he puts on the end just to explain how the space station is in synchronous with the Earth atmosphere and Sumatra and the description of going to space and slowly getting dark and seeing the stars coming out, and It was just...
That was a beautiful sequence. Yeah.
Oh, it's just beautiful wordplay, which Jonathan does. He just writes so well and so poetically. And so in this one, you've got a lot more... It felt so much more like Doctor Who. So that's partly, it's a Doctor Who writer. It's someone who loves the show, who's put in all the deliberate... I'm going to put in everything Second Doctor.
All the references. Yep.
And so you just smile. And so anyone who loves the Second Doctor, loves this era, you can't help just keep smiling at all the things putting in. And yet it's still a good story that's really paces well and which drives you along. Even though there's not a lot they can put into these stories in some ways. There's not a lot of depth they can put in, but yet it drives really well and it's paced really well.
There are some beautiful moments like that sequence where they travel up. That really stands out to me, and I enjoy that. It was described so well. It was beautiful. You can imagine how badly it would be done if it was an actual TV story. Yeah. But that didn't really matter back then because we just suspended our disbelief, as that was the term that everyone used. But here, we've only got our imaginations, and it felt so beautiful, that sequence. I also love the simplicity of the aliens. They were pretty one-dimensional aliens. There's not much to them, but that's what you got in season 5. But you had that threat. You always had that constant threat, and the resolution at the end was a very, very simple, typical Second Doctor resolution to the story. I loved that about it too. So, as for nostalgia points, this is top marks from me. This one.
Yeah, everything just works. The sound design, the music design, the acting works, the story works. Everything has come together to just be a very entertaining hour.
Yeah. So at this point, this was my favourite story. So, but that takes us to the next one, which is called Resistance, which is a Polly story. So it's got Polly, Ben, Jamie, and the Doctor all in the one story. What are we going to do in a companion chronicle with all those different characters? So this was written by Steve Lyons, another very well-known and established Doctor Who writer, and I'll read the blurb. February 1944. France is occupied by the Third Reich. The French Gestapo has an iron grip, and the native resistance attempts to overthrow the invaders. On one quiet winter's night, a British plane crashes to the ground, leaving a flying officer desperate to escape via the evasion lines. Separated from the TARDIS, Ben and Jamie, the Doctor and Polly, find themselves with enemies on all sides. Trapped in one of the darkest times in history, Polly discovers that humanity can be just as dangerous as any threat from outer space. She resolves to make a difference, even if it means leaving the Doctor forever.
It was dark outside the TARDIS and jolly cold. I knew that anything at all could be waiting for me in that darkness. My eyes were beginning to adjust now. I could make out the shapes of trees against a night sky. That was when I heard footsteps, booted footsteps on gravel, and I turned and was alarmed to see 8 or 9 men running along the train line towards us. At first I thought they were railway officials worried about the obstruction we were causing, but as they drew closer, I could see they were wearing berets and blue uniform coats and brown shirts, and they were carrying guns. Then the shots rang out. I stopped and I turned, and my heart caught in my throat as I saw Jamie fall. We ran through the forest, ducking, weaving, doubling back on ourselves, and at first I could hear more footsteps and shouting behind us, but they soon fell away. I had lost my bearings in the confusion, but now I recognised the shapes of the trees around us, saw the bush beside which we'd made our plans. We were at the rendezvous point, and Ben and Jamie weren't here.
Resistance by Steve Lyon, number 3.9 in the Companion Chronicle range, starring Anneke Wills as Polly Wright and John Sackville as the pilot. Recorded May 2008 and released March 2009. Director, Lisa Bowerman. Script editor, Alan Barnes. Sound design and music by David Darlington. The producer was David Richardson. Executive producer, Nicholas Briggs and Jason Hagellery. And the cover art by Simon Hullab. This is the first appearance of Anneke Wills since 1967 as Polly. Gary Russell had created an uncle for Polly in his novelisation Invasion of the Cat People, who had died in World War II. So although the writer had originally planned the uncle to be on her mother's side, so they'd be able to use the name when he was introduced, this was seen as a good opportunity not to miss to use Gary's character. And for that reason, the main character's surname couldn't be mentioned for a while because it would throw off the plot. Lots of things more to talk about, but for the moment, that's the facts of the trivia.
Absolutely, there's lots to talk about. The Second World War was an era that... How many times was that done in classic Doctor Who? Once, was it? Curse of Fenric? Is that it?
Well, and the war games, kind of. Oh, you mean World War II?
Yeah, World War II wasn't in the war games. Yeah, that's...
I mean, any war. I mean, the Curse of Fenric is probably the only time. I mean, you got to remember how close these people were to World War II. Like when this was set. I mean, had it been filmed in the Patrick Troughton era, it would only be 25 years. Actually, not even that. 20 years after the end of World War II. So this is closer than the millennium was for us. I mean, when you think about what's happened in the last 20 years, I mean, this would have been a closer distance than 9/11 is to us now. And so these major events that happened that just feel like yesterday. This story, if it had been filmed in Patrick Troughton's era, was only 20 years or so away. So it's a major, close historic event. For us now, it's starting to feel like, well, it is a long way away from World War II. But for these people, they'd lived, the audience, they'd lived all through World War II. They'd survived World War II. And so even the children, their parents had recovered from World War II. So it's a very close story to them.
Yeah. So I think this was an idea of David Richardson's to do some kind of Secret Army scenario, even though Secret Army is set in Belgium, isn't it?
It is, I think.
The Belgian resistance. But anyway, similar kind of thing. I did have a chuckle. Was the female resistance leader, was her name Michelle?
Michelle.
I had to smile because I thought that sounds much like Hello, Hello, and this is far too serious a story to have a Michelle of the Resistance in it. But anyway, she was there. So yeah, that was good. Anneke, I don't know what it is about her, but I just love her voice. She's got such a soothing voice to listen to. She's a great narrator. The Target books she's done have been great. She does all the voices really well in this, and you get a real nice separation of all the different voices throughout this. What do you think of Anneke in this one as Polly? The first time as Polly.
Yeah, she does a great job, and she does have just an amazing voice. That RP is so beautiful. I'm not sure Polly, where they picked up from in the 60s, the swinging 60s, would have had quite the accent that Polly has, but it works really well. And she plays all the characters. I mean, it is a bit of, and then there was none, as they start off with four in the TARDIS crew, and one by one they're disappearing just to follow Polly's story alone. They get it's Frazer, I forget who goes first, Jamie or Ben, but they sort of drop them off one at a time. So it's just then her and the Doctor for a while, and finally just her.
Yeah.
It's the reducing TARDIS crew, and you feel there's other stories happening at the same time elsewhere. Had this been 4 episodes, you could actually have followed the other stories, and probably a later Chronicles would have made. A later Chronicles would have actually employed and done the other storylines that are happening, because there's big storylines happening everywhere, but we're only following Polly's storyline. I think you've got now that Command Chronicles is becoming really established. You've got Lisa Bowerman now doing the majority of the directing, so she's now come as a director. David Richardson has now been employed by Big Finish to produce the range. You've got this oversight that's happening, and David Richardson, we still have to get him on the show. He's so visionary in terms of big picture, and the ideas he throws out to people and suggestions, that he really establishes some amazing storylines because of that. Yeah. I think where this gets me is It's just a pure historical, which theoretically aren't as popular, but it just works so well as a pure historical. So it works beautifully that way. But this is now the Companion Chronicles range. The first couple of stories we listened to were just people trying to get a Doctor Who story out. I think with the Grace Space Elevator, you actually had what would have worked as a perfect Second Doctor story with a bit more vision and would have been hard to produce. With Resistance, we've now got a story which goes beyond the television series and addresses things that the TV series never tried to do. And so you've got a main plot device happening here, and a bit of a spoiler, because Polly's uncle, who died in the war, who she's only ever heard about from her father, is there, and suddenly she possibly has a chance to save him, because when she works out his surname is right and that he died in the war, and there will be twists along the way, and there's some clues along the way about what the twists are. But the key thing is Polly trying to work out, can I save my uncle from dying? And that is a concept that wouldn't appear in Doctor Who for decades later after this. But this is taking Doctor Who to a new level, which I'm trying to think. I guess Father's Day maybe addressed it. That would have been before this, because this is 2009. Father's Day would have been 2006, I think, or 5. But here you've got this concept of a companion wanting to save someone and change the future, which never would have appeared in the classic Doctor Who show. So this is now characters in a more mature way, going beyond what the bounds of the show let them do. And this is where the Companion Chronicles range really started to fly, because it really pushed the storylines, it pushed the ideas, and became so creative. And as I said, you've got this works on so many different levels. It's got so many different twists along the way. I'm not going to mention what the biggest twist is, but you have all these amazing things happening all the time. Steve Lyons, his writing is superb, because as it gets more complicated, then we lose Jamie. Then it gets more complicated, lose Ben, just the Doctor and Polly, and then Polly's story becomes so central, lose the Doctor. And so just the way he constructs it is just utterly brilliant till you get to the very end. And then all the dangers there, all the confusions there, anything that could go wrong does go wrong, and you have no idea, even though we know Polly's not going to die because she survives to later the Faceless Ones. There's still so much tension there in terms of the people around her, and will they survive? And her uncle, what's going to happen to him? And it just, this just blew me away, this story. I forgot how good it was, and even now just talk about it, boy, it's exciting that something like this could be produced in this range. It's just amazing.
It certainly is. And I can really tell, after listening to so much Big Finish for so many years, the style of Lisa Bowerman as a director here. She has got such a distinct touch as a director. She gets this real subtleness out of everything and everyone, but really nice, deep character pieces. It says on the front of the cover of this one that the actor is it John. What's his name? John Sackville. He plays the pilot, and I think I vaguely thought the pilot. What's going on here? Is there something in this? I thought, oh, maybe he's an alien or something. But it comes clear as to why he's called the pilot, because that leads us into the first cliffhanger, which is a great cliffhanger, especially for a pure historical story. But then we've got more twists and turns, as you said, as the second episode goes through. I just love this one. I think this is, by this stage, the Companion Chronicles have really hit their stride, and they just go from strength to strength from here on. I don't think I've heard any Companion Chronicle past here that isn't exceptional, because this is a great one. You're right. It not only takes us back to the era, but we get into Polly's head a bit more, which you never get on the TV series. You never get that with those early companions, and that's what I love about this. We got the opportunity to do that, get a bit more of their character. So for me, out of the four, it's a bit hard between the Johnny Morris story as well, because that was such a great Doctor Who story. But this one for me is probably my pick of the four that we've listened to for this review.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is just superb. But yeah, I'm glad I went back and listened to the four, But yeah, this last was excited me to go listen to some more Companion Chronicles and later ones. And this it's stories like this is why I love the range.
Yep, absolutely. Fantastic stuff. Now, that was our Second Doctor retrospective. We're going to focus on something a little bit different next time. We're going to be talking about the entire series of I, Davros. And if all goes to plan, we are going to have with us Dave from the Doctor Who show talking about those stories, because he tweeted about how much he loved them. And that's a secret, folks. If you don't want to get asked to come on the Sirens of Audio, don't tweet about how much you like an audio drama, because we'll ask you on. That's what happens. You're warned. You've been warned. So that's what's coming up next. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to Blake 7 The Way Back. You'll find us at Blake 7 Way Back on YouTube at the moment, and hopefully very shortly we'll be on Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast feeds too. Now, before we go, I wanted to just mention something else that I've been listening to recently, but I can't do that because I want to ask you what you've been listening to or watching, Philip, if anything stands out to you at the moment.
Well, I've been watching lots of Blake 7, and I've been listening to some Blake 7, and I've been reading lots of books on Blake 7.
Been listening too.
So I have been. So, well, because my aim with our Blake 7 range is we're going to have it's going to be once a month for each episode, but the other fortnight, I'm just hoping to put out some other bits and pieces. Some of them will be extended interviews. So if you listen to our first episode, Michael E. Bryant, the director, who directed the 4 episodes of the first season of Blake 7, he actually has talked. He's going to talk about the 4 episodes he directed. But we also did an extended interview with him as well about Doctor Who and all his direction and all his other things. And so that will come out as a bonus in 3 weeks' time or so. But along the way, too, there's all these Big Finish stories that fit in chronologically with the stories. And so my hope is along the way to actually review some of them, talk about some of them along the way. I've still got to tell the other fellas what they've got to listen to and when. For those who want to
Have you got a spreadsheet? Do you know where everything fits?
I do know where everything fits, I believe.
Very good.
It's just so, but some of it's a bit. So the first thing we should have listened to was actually some Avalon stories, but we'll do Avalon when we get to Avalon down the track. So there's going to be lots of things like that. So I've been doing a lot of listening like that. In terms of other listing, Big Finish wise, I finished the Time War with the 8th Doctor. I forget what that's number is. But I'm very far behind on my recent listing of Big Finish. They're just piling up on me. I'm trying to work out how I'm going to get to them all. A bit terrifying. But anyhow, that's my excitement at the moment. I'm doing lots of editing, and I'm admiring you more and more, Dwayne, for all the editing you've done over the years for this podcast. Because now I'm having to do it myself. It's hard work and so time consuming, but it is also fun.
Yes. And it gets easier as time goes by. You work out the shortcuts and things. It'll be fine. It'll be good. You've done a great job so far.
What are you listening to and watching, Dwayne?
Well, something that you inspired me to dig out and have a listen to recently. I can't remember why we were talking about this now, but I stumbled across. I was going through my CDs, and I stumbled across this. This is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, read by Douglas Adams. I've actually got that. That's actually quite rare these days, because the Stephen Fry version is the one that's out there more these days. But I started giving that a bit of a listen. I thought, no, Philip said we need to do a review on the radio series. So I've started re-listening to the radio series. So I've got all the phases right up to I think probably just do up to the tertiary phase. But we probably won't have time to talk about all of it. But that's my plan, is to listen up to the tertiary phase. So I've just started on that. And that was it. David Goodison, that's what it was. We were talking to David Goodison, remember? And he's in episode 1. Right. He plays the barman, and there he is in the credits, announced as the barman. Never picked up on it before. And I was listening very closely to his voice, and yeah, you can tell it's him, but he doesn't sound like Davros at all. I'll tell you that much now.
No, he doesn't.
But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. All right, that'll do us for this instalment. Get listening to I, Davros, because that's coming up very soon, and you can agree with us or disagree with us. And I started watching a bit of I, Claudius too, because...
They can't disagree with this, because I'm now 2 episodes in again. This must be my 4th listen, maybe 5th listen. It is spectacular. Like, I cannot believe how good I Davros is. It is blowing me away. And
it is one of the best things that Big Finish have done.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. So, yeah, make sure you listen to it. It's not too expensive to buy at the moment, but it's sensational.
Yep.
So you see watching I Claudius too, are you?
Because it's on YouTube, I Claudius. So I've got a DVD, and I thought, instead of digging out the DVD, I'll just whack it on YouTube. So I was watching a bit of that the other day, and it's interesting that the character that Sian Phillips plays is very, very much like Davros's mother. What's her name? Calcula in I Davros. So yeah, definitely lots of inspiration. With that, because it was Gary Russell's idea, wasn't it? So yeah, definitely lots of inspiration from I Claudius there.
Definitely.
All right, we're looking forward to that. And Philip, it's been great to be in your company. Thank you for joining me today. Couldn't do it without you.
It's been my pleasure. I've really enjoyed chatting with you about some great stories and just catching up. I always love it.
Yeah, good stuff. And we'll catch you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
This has been the Sirens of Audio, reviewing the first 4 Second Doctor Companion Chronicles with your hosts Philip Edney and Dwayne Bunny. Theme music by Joe Kramer. Catch up with all the latest info, including news on our live events at sirensofaudio.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our brand new podcast, Blake 7 The Way Back, on YouTube, X and Facebook using the handle at Blake 7 Way Back. Got some feedback? Send your email to sirensofaudio@gmail.com, or you can find us on all our social media at Audio Sirens. Thanks for listening, audiophiles. We'll hear you next time.